After years of waiting, Hollow Knight Silksong is finally real, and it is arriving very soon on Nintendo Switch 2. This one isn't just another indie sequel, it's the follow-up to one of the most beloved successful indie games of all time, Hollow Knight, and that has now sold nearly 15 million copies worldwide. But with years of delays, the sky-high expectations, and an entirely new Nintendo console to launch along, Silksong feels less like a game release and more like a major event. So today, let's look at how we got here, why Silksong took so long, and what the early impressions tell us about the future of Team Cherry's masterpiece. Well, if you enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button down below for even more Nintendo content here on Power Up Direct. First of all, let's have a brief reminder about what Hollow Knight Silksong is. So Hollow Knight Silksong is the long-awaited sequel to the indie phenomenon Hollow Knight, but it didn't start out that way. Originally it was conceived as a small DLC expansion, but the project quickly outgrew its original scope. Team Cherry, the small Australian studio behind the series, soon realised the new protagonist, Hornet, needed her own world, mechanics and story. And that shift transformed Silksong into a full-scale follow-up, set in an entirely new kingdom filled with enemies, bosses and mysteries to uncover. Instead of playing as the Silent Knight from the first game, players step into the role of Hornet, a character fans will remember both as an ally and a rival in Hollow Knight, but unlike the Knight, Hornet is faster, more agile and armed with a needle and thread that allows for a wider range of movement and also combat techniques. This shift in playstyle not only makes the game feel quicker and more dynamic, but also forces players to unlearn some of their Hollow Knight habits to adapt to the new rhythm. Well, the game takes place in Farloom, a mysterious new kingdom that's both more vertical and more vibrant than the depths of Hallow Nest. Farloom is filled with handcrafted areas, each with unique biomes, quests and enemies, and where the first game thrived on a haunting sense of decay, Silksong definitely feels alive, brimming with colour, speed, and also danger too. It's not just a continuation of Hollow Knight's world, but an expansion of the themes and also the atmosphere, pushing into new territory while staying true to the series' DNA. At its heart, Silksong remains a Metroidvania. It's a sprawling, interconnected world full of secrets, upgrades, and tough but rewarding combat. But with Hornet's speed, an expanded moveset, and a redesigned quest system, the game aims to feel both familiar and also fresh as well. If Hollow Knight was about slow, methodical exploration through a crumbling underground, Silksong is about momentum, precision, and the thrill of constant motion. Well, next up, let's have a look at Hollow Knight's legacy. So when Hollow Knight released in 2017, few could have predicted just how big it would become. Developed by the small Australian Team Cherry, the game quickly earned a reputation as one of the finest indie titles of all time. It combined precise combat, a sprawling interconnected world, and a haunting sense of hand-drawn art style that set it apart in quite a crowded genre. What began as a Kickstarter project soon transformed into a global success story. Over the years, Hollow Knight has sold nearly 15 million copies worldwide, and that is really an astonishing figure for an indie game. Critics praised it as a masterpiece, players fell in love with it for its brutal but fair difficulty and its mysterious lore and sheer depth of its exploration. The game's success wasn't just about sales, it became a cultural touchstone in the indie game community, often held up as the gold standard of modern Metroidvanias. Hollow Knight is also built on one of the most passionate fan bases in gaming. Players spent years dissecting the cryptic story, speedrunning its brutal boss fights, and sharing theories about the mysterious world. Mods, fan art, community challenges all kept the game alive long after release. For many, Hollow Knight wasn't just a one-off indie hit, it was a world that they never wanted to leave. And this legacy is what makes the arrival of Hollow Knight Silksong so significant. It's not just another sequel, it's the continuation of this phenomenon. Fans have waited for years, their expectations are fueled by the original game's brilliance. And for Team Cherry, Silksong carries the weight of one of the most beloved indie titles ever made, and its release on Nintendo Switch 2 feels like a moment that could define the next era of indie gaming. Well, next up, let's have a look at the long wait for Silksong. So Hollow Knight Silksong has been one of the most anticipated games of the past decade, and part of that just comes down to how long fans have been waiting. Originally announced in 2019, the game began life as a small expansion to the first Hollow Knight before growing into a full-blown sequel. Team Cherry realised that Hornet's movement, abilities and story demanded far more than a simple add-on, and so Silksong was born. What was supposed to be a modest follow-up quickly expanded into a sprawling project that rivaled in many ways and exceeded the scope of the original game. But with that ambition came delays, and Team Cherry, it's a tiny studio, just of a handful of developers, and their meticulous approach to design meant the progress was slow. Every environment is handcrafted, every enemy is hand-animated, every system is polished to perfection, and fans grew restless as the years passed, especially as the game skipped major showcases and updates. Memes about Silksong never releasing became almost as much a part of its identity as the game itself. While there was external factors added to the delay, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted development, and with a game of this size, even small setbacks had an outsized impact. On top of that, the success of Hollow Knight raised the stakes enormously. Team Cherry knew millions of players were waiting, and the pressure to deliver something worthy of the original only grew heavier with time. In interviews, the developers admitted the weight of expectation influenced their decision to keep pushing the game until it met their vision. Well, now, after 6 years of waiting, the release of Silksong feels almost surreal. For some fans, the journey has been frustrating, but the long silence also built an aura of myth around the game. The delays, the mystery, the sheer anticipation have turned Silksong into more than just a sequel. It's become a once-in-a-generation event in indie gaming, and a title that people have spent years imagining before they've even had the chance to play it. Well, next up, let's have a look at the Silksong preview reaction. So at Gamescom 2025, critics finally got hands-on time with Hollow Knight Silksong, and the early impressions have only fueled the excitement. From the very first moments, it's clear that Silksong feels different from its predecessor. Hornet's agility and speed stand out immediately, giving the game a faster, more kinetic rhythm. Eurogamer described it as harder and faster than the original, and noted that the change in pace makes Silksong feel like a game with its own identity, rather than just a reskin of Hollow Knight. Game Informer echoed those sentiments after playing through the opening level. They praised Hornet's movement options, pointing out that she's got a bigger moveset right out of the gate, and that makes encounters feel fresh even for Hollow Knight veterans. And the preview highlighted how this agility doesn't just affect combat, it changes how players explore with platforming challenges that encourage momentum and precision in the way the first game rarely demanded. And that speed and difficulty, however, might not be for everybody. Eurogamer questioned whether the increase in pace might alienate some players, asking directly, is it better? The tone of their preview suggests that Silksong is thrilling to play, but it may be more punishing than the original Hollow Knight, demanding sharper reflexes and tighter execution. For a game that already is known for its challenge, this could push it into even more divisive territory. Despite those caveats, the reaction is overwhelmingly positive. Game Informer concluded their preview by saying Silksong already feels like a game that would define conversations around indie games for years to come. And it's that kind of praise that signals the long wait may have been worth it. And with the Switch 2 on stronger hardware, players can expect smoother performance and richer visuals, making Silksong feel like a natural showcase for Nintendo's next generation console. Well, finally, let's have a quick look at the future of Silksong. So looking ahead, Silksong Future already seems to be bright and expansive. Team Cherry have confirmed that work on additional content is already underway, with a DLC expansion in development alongside the main game. According to Polygon, the studio sees Silksong not just as a single release, but as a foundation to build upon. Much like Hollow Knight's own free content updates kept players coming back for years. Combined with the power of the Switch 2, which gives Silksong a platform it can handle the demanding speed and detail, this sequel feels positioned to live well beyond the launch. Rather than just being at the end of a long wait, Silksong could be the beginning of a new era for one of indie gaming's most beloved worlds. Well, after years of delay and speculation and anticipation, the wait is nearly over. The game releases on September the 4th, which is only a few days away now. But the real question is, will Silksong live up to the towering legacy of the original, or carve out something entirely of its own. Now, I really want to know what you think. Are you planning to play Silksong on the Switch 2? And do you believe it can surpass Hollow Knight's legacy? Let me know in the comments down below. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for even more Nintendo content here on Power Up Direct, and thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.